great day because, okay, there was just a slight interruption telling me a recording is in progress. So if anybody didn't want to be recorded, they had the opportunity to leave. Right. Anyway, South Africa Education Supports Project that Gary was talking about, this is such an amazing story because this started out as a small group of people. Some of the folks were involved with us in the anti-apartheid struggle. And in 1991, after Nelson Mandela was released, I went back to our home and talked to various people. I said, you know, the folks in Winnipeg are saying we were anti-apartheid for many years. Now we got to be pro something in South Africa. And I talked to various people, and what really came to the fore was that we should be looking at the situation of the children, the youngest ones in the community, and trying to make sure that all was well for them. So we started out working with a couple of early childhood programs there, came back and started an annual golf tournament in 1992, I think, Gary. And it's been still going. Of course, unfortunately, because of COVID, we've not been having it for last year, and we don't know about this year. But it turned out to be an opportunity to grow a kind of family of people. And I call them family very advisedly because many of you on the call today are part of that family. And I want to tell you just how much I appreciate the solid support that we've been getting from people over the years. The golf tournament was just an excuse. My letter of appeal that goes out to all our faithful supporters every year is what brings in the money that helps us to do all the good work that we've been doing. This wouldn't be possible without having great partners on the other side, on the ground in South Africa. And so after, struggling for a few years, raising a few dollars here and there, one of the most amazing things that happened while we're looking at the whole issue of early childhood was we came across a village called Makaputu Children's Village. And Makaputu Children's Village was taking in AIDS orphans and vulnerable children and taking care of them. And in the process, and that was such a blessing to get connected with them, because we then found out in the late 1990s that the Rotary Club of Hillcrest was raising all kinds of money to build cottages to house these children. And that was the beginning of one of the most amazing partnerships that I've been a part of. So the Rotary Club of Hillcrest is our solid partner. We eventually housed our projects at the Rotary Club of Winnipeg in about 2003. That's been another amazing blessing because the Rotary Club of Winnipeg, which is now our home, has the capacity to triple the funds that we raise for our projects through the Rotary Foundation. And very happy that we have with us today members of my club. You saw Eva and Frank, and there may be others from our club on the call today. And I want to thank both the Rotary Club of Hillcrest and my own Rotary Club of Winnipeg here for what they do to impact so many lives. One of the greatest joys of my life was a few years ago, I was able to go back to South Africa with Amelia, and we went to visit the village. It's not called Makaputu now, it's called Ikatelo, because the children didn't like the name of Makaputu, so they had a competition and they chose the name Ikatelo, which means the chosen ones. And they are indeed the chosen ones, and we are the chosen ones for being associated with them. So in addition to that, of course, we've worked with the Rotary Club of Hillcrest on many global grant projects, very successful ones. I don't have time to tell you about that today, but I want you to know that through those global grant projects, you have impacted many lives. One of the most joyful things for us right now is to be engaged in the 1000 Survival Gardens project. For me, that is it's such a joyful thing because we're able to take the challenges of COVID and turn them into something that's helping us to empower women on the ground in South Africa and the children as well. So that's what you'll be hearing about today. And I am very thankful to Gary and our team for organizing this day. and very thankful to our South African partners for joining us today. So we're looking forward to hearing from them. So I'll turn it back to you, Gary, and say thank you once again to all of you joining us. But thank you most of all for your unflinching support over the years. Gary?
Thank you, Srini. So the whole idea for this event came about, well, because of Zoom. It is now possible for us to connect you, our donors and supporters, directly with the people who work on the ground in South Africa. So we thought it would be a fantastic idea to do this virtual tour. So this is for you, and to bring you more into the fold, into exactly what we're doing. So we're going to hear from Rob in a short bit. He's a Rotarian from Hillcrest near Durban. And he'll provide us a presentation that will give us a brief and select retrospective of the projects that we have been involved with through the Rotary Club of Winnipeg, and who also guide us through an overview of our 1000 Survival Gardens project that Srini just mentioned, which is current and ongoing. After Rob, we're going to hear from Kaya, who lives some 350 or so kilometers southwest of Durban in the village of Taweni. She's also a Rotarian and will talk to us about some of the Rotary projects that have taken place there. And we'll touch on a new global grant that we're being involved with a nearby community there. So questions will be encouraged if you wish to ask any. We're going to have a sort of a brief interlude between the two presentations, and hopefully time afterwards where you can ask questions live if you wish. But we also encourage you to use the chat box. Blair has already been sending messages with various links through the chat box, and we'll be monitoring for questions as well. So I already mentioned that we've all been muted so we can hear our presenters uninterrupted. And then finally, of course, as Srini mentioned, you are being recorded. The idea here is that some folks who couldn't make it today, who wish to make it, will hopefully be able to see this on YouTube at a future time. So without further ado, I'm going to begin sharing my screen, and I will turn it over to you, Rob, to take us through the first part of our presentation.
Good evening, Gary. Good evening, everyone. Srini, thank you for giving me the opportunity to take you on a virtual tour of the projects we've been doing, thanks to the support of the Rotary Club Winnipeg. And I'd like to thank our incoming president, Imelda, for being here to support me as well. Most of the background Srini gave you, unfortunately, was before I joined the club. I only joined the club in 2012. So I was fortunate to walk into something that was already in place, thanks to people like Srini and can I say my predecessors in the club. Just to give you an idea of where we are, thanks, Gary. Obviously, we're in Southern Africa, at the tip of Africa, and you see the little blue dot. That's more or less where Durban is. And you can also see the eastern seaboard of Canada and the United States there. And this specific map, or sorry, the previous map, always makes me realize how fortunate we are to be so far from you and yet so close to you, and the support that we get from you. And thank you very much for that. Zooming in a little bit on Southern Africa, if you look at the red line, what's below it, and shall I say to the right of it, that is the district that our Rotary Club is part of. We cover that entire area. It's about one third of South Africa, includes the independent country of Lesotho. And most of our projects are done in near Durban, which is to the right there, where our club is directly involved. Thanks, Gary. We zoom in a little bit closer down to Durban. Then we're about 40 kilometers inland from Durban. Durban is probably the busiest port in Africa, but we are 40 kilometers in roughly. And you'll see at the top there, the Valley of 1,000 Hills. That's the area where we do most of our projects directly. Thanks, Gary. Just to give you an idea of what the Valley of 1,000 Hills look like, you can see where it gets its name from. This is obviously a beautiful lush photo taken in summer. But you can see the terrain, it's very difficult to provide services within the area. Thanks, Gary. This is a typical local homestead, not all homesteads are like that, but you can, once again, you can see the difficulty in getting services, etc., to areas like that. Thanks, Gary. Just to run through some of the, as I say, more recent projects in my time that I've been associated with the club and with Rotary Club Winnipeg, and we've had, we are just so grateful for the support we've had from Rotary Club Winnipeg and other clubs with these projects. We've got a skills training project, the Karma Sewing Project, which Srini is always phoning me as to find out how things are going there. Annual leadership course, which is sponsored for underprivileged children, the Ikatelo Children's Village, which Srini mentioned earlier, which I'll come back to a little later. Gillet's Primary School, we've built an ablution facility, which again, I'll elaborate on a little bit later. Our local Scout Hall, which was renovated thanks to the support from the Rotary Club Winnipeg and others. And one of the global grants we're currently busy with, Lily of the Valley Children's Village, which is also about 20 or so kilometers further inland from where we are. Thanks, Gary. Ikatelo Children's Village, one of the biggest projects we did there was a rainwater harvesting project. That was supported over and above Rotary Club Winnipeg, also Fording Bridge in the UK, two other clubs down in San Diego, El Camino and Carlsbad, where the US Open took place this past weekend. That is a reservoir you can see there. The water is harvested on the roof, from the roofs to that reservoir, and then through a filtration system pumped back into the cottages. Thank you, Gary. These are the cottages. Each cottage accommodates about 8 children with a house mother, so it's as close to a home type environment for the kids. And there are between 48 and 60 kids in the village, plus staff, of course. You can see, together with the water harvesting project, we also installed the solar heater geysers to provide hot water to the kids. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a photo of an overview of the village, but if you go to the website, the Ikatelo website, there's a beautiful picture looking down on the village, and you can see the Valley of 1,000 Hills around it. It's really a beautiful setting. Thank you, Kerry. Gillet's Primary School. The school accommodates about 386 kids, and there were only 10 toilets for boys and girls. You can say 5 each. And so really, thanks to Srini's support, Srini's motivation, obviously, with Rotary Club Winnipeg, we built the boys' facility on the left there. You can see the top photos, what it looks like inside with some urinals, toilets, etc. And what the school didn't have was a toilet for the disabled, which is on the left. If you look at the left-hand photo, the left doorway is the entrance to the disabled facility. The photos downstairs cover what the old boys and girls toilets looked like, and then were renovated as just girls toilets on the right. The color scheme, if I may, as chosen by the school. Thanks, Gary. Lily of the Valley is a global grant that we are currently completing. It's basically complete for what it's worth. This village accommodates about 120 kids plus staff, quite an isolated area, and had major problems with water interruptions, etc. Again, we did very similarly to what we did at Ikatelo. You can see the reservoir on the left-hand side, but here we also installed the borehole. You can see the little pump house to the right on the left-hand photo, to the right of the reservoir, and you can see the cottage, one of the cottages to the right. I just want to throw in here that some of these cottages, I was actually very surprised to learn just a couple of weeks back that some of these cottages did not have running water or hot water for the past 5 years. Absolutely amazing. So thanks very much to your support and Rotary Club Winnipeg that we could do this. Thank you, Gary. There you can see the filtration and pump facility on the left-hand side. Another thing, they had the fire hoses installed, but not connected. They weren't working. So that we managed to get up and running, and you can see the gentleman testing it there. And just on the right-hand side is our BDI quality control inspector managing things. You can see the reservoir in the background there. Thank you. Thanks, Gary. We currently, for the past 12 months, we've been busy with this 1,000 Survival Gardens project. This is a project in collaboration with the Rotary Club Winnipeg, Rotary Club Gibsons in BC, Canada, and one of the members of the Rotary Club Gibsons, Luke Forstermans, he and his partner Linda Ryan run the Roller Hippo Foundation, and these we've done in collaboration with the Warner Johnson Development, which you'll hear from Kaya about a little later, and the Hillcrest AIDS Center Trust, which I'll touch on a little bit later as well. Thank you, Gary. This project came out of as a result of the COVID pandemic. When the pandemic, hit us in South Africa, we went into one of the strictest shutdowns or lockdowns imaginable. And with our, ailing economy, it really didn't help. People were really struggling. Our club was inundated with requests for food parcels, which was obviously unsustainable because we couldn't do any fundraising for what it's worth. So we needed to find a solution, a dignified, sustainable method to provide food for families. And Srini and I got chatting, and what we looked at was trying to assist people to plant their own fruit and vegetables. But, it's pointless. You can't just give people seeds and say, there you go, plant your own fruit and vegetables. They need tools, they need guidance, they need water. Thanks, Gary. So in conjunction with Rotary Club Gibsons, as I say, in the Roller Hippo Foundation, we came up with the Survival Garden Kit, which consists of a hippo roller, which the lady's holding on the right there, and more about that later. You can see there's some garden tools, there's fertilizers, there's a watering can, there's seeds and seedlings, which is not on the photo. And because it's COVID related, it includes soap, sanitizer, and a mask. And where needed, a guide to plant, your own fruit and vegetables. Thanks very much, Gary. Coming back to the hippo roller, you can see what it's about. The hippo roller it's manufactured in South Africa. It takes 95 liters. And if you look at the photo on the right, you can pretty well clearly see that the lady on the left is wondering where she can get one of those. You can imagine rolling 95 liters and comparing that with carrying 20 or 25 liters on your head, what it does to your neck, your back, etc. In that terrain, it's just unbelievable. Thank you, Carrie. Here you can clearly see where it's been put. This is down at Terweni, where the lady's filling a bucket down in the ravine. She brings the bucket and fills the hippo roller, and of course it's much easier to convey water to wherever she needs it. We've seen photos where the kids throw the bucket down, tie to a string, throw the bucket down, and then haul it up the ravine to fill their water bucket, so they don't have to pull it up back up the hill again. Thanks, Gary. Up to date, since July last year, we've distributed just on 300 of these kits, distributed and currently distributing, if I may. By the end of July, we should have another 150 for distribution. Our main partner in the locally has been the Hillcrest AIDS Center Trust. As the name indicates, it's an AIDS center, primarily initially primarily focused, obviously, on AIDS patients, etc. They've got a hospital here. John from the Rotary Club Winnipeg visited when he was here about 2 years ago. 2-3 years ago, if I may. The Warner Johnson Development down in Terweni, again, you'll hear about. And we've been fortunate to have the support of one of our national hardware dealerships who sponsors certain tools for us. The Hillcrest AIDS Center Trust is run by a Canadian lady from BC, Candace Robinson. They found that patients were more concerned about their family back home than their own, well-being. So the center adapted a, shall I say, a more holistic approach and started doing skills training, sewing. They run the sewing group or sewing training center, a craft center, and then got into very involved with community gardens to feed people, to get fresh fruit and vegetables, etc. And also homestead gardens. So they were the perfect partner for us to align ourselves with. Thank you, Gary. On the top left, you'll see a photo of one of their community gardens, and the lady third from the left is Candice. As I say, our Canadian, she's the CEO of HACT, and really it's amazing the work they do. That some of the deliveries we've done. The second photo on the left at the bottom is one that was a distribution that was done in Taweni, where the kids are standing. That's a primary school. We handed some kits to, and obviously on the right bottom, ladies receiving their kits. Thank you, Gary. Top left was done inland, again about 350 kilometers from us, a place called Vicksburg. The two photos top right was done in Escort, again about 300-400 kilometers from where we are, and below you'll see photos of the produce. Thanks, Gary. Again, some photos of the gardens, etc. And what you'll of course notice immediately, it's primarily the women working in the gardens. They are primarily the food providers. We call them the gogos, the grandmothers, looking after kids, etc., because the parents may be lost due to the pandemic. Thank you, Gary. So the objective is not only to provide food, but also to empower women and also enable young girls to attend school rather than lugging water up and down and working at home, if I may. Thank you, Gary. We've had a number of, shall I say, testimonials from people. You can see Ndombe at the top says, I use it in my garden, the hippo roller. Nondomiso, I enjoy doing, the roller makes life easier for them and they enjoy doing our garden. Then Diwe loves the fact she can use it for exercise and irrigate her crops. Irene is very innovative. Over and above the crops, she also uses it to do her washing. So if any of you need a hippo roller, please speak to us, exercise and do your washing gladly. Bettina down at the bottom, she stores the water. She's very happy her grandchildren can help her in the garden because life's made so much easier through the hippo roller. And a neighbor wants it. You remember the two ladies standing, one with a bucket and the other one with a hippo roller? You can't blame her for wanting one. Thank you, Gary. Perhaps best, I can waffle on and on, but it's perhaps best you hear from one of our recipients, and if Gary doesn't mind playing this video for us. Thank you, Gary.
Sibongo kanzana ngihlala kaMnamatha. Nginabantwana abathathu nabazukulu abathathu. Sekuba yimina umama nobaba. Futhi ke kuze ngilime kangaka la engadini. Futhi ngibone nje kunele sifo secorona ngatshala. Ngakubona ukuthi hayi ngiyakuthola kungasekudleka ensimini ngoba indlala yangabhoka kakhulu kangaka noma imali ingekho ukuthi siyothenga noma behlele ngaye emsebenzini. Njalo nehlathi obanana manantshi pelepele maaphula upopo mango kwatapeya vimba ngoplastiki ngenza nengadi ngicosha izicucu hambe ngivala nenkomo zangena nezimbuzi ngivala ukuthi ngibekezele kuze kube ingaka nje nezithombe enginazo. Inkinga engibe nazo njengoba nabo mama mama sibabili sihlukene ngamakhaya sithi noma ethola la kuthola emsebenzini ufuna kuchaze phakathi unye kuphose ngala unye kuphose ngale kuya ngokuthi ngiyahlambe kuleli sonto uthola imali yathi ukuthi futhi asicazeke sithenge ke njengoba mama ke nezingane nami nezingane umama ngalefu nawo nezingane zo4 nje la igcekeni ke nokwakha kwakheki ngathi into kade ngayiqala ijamile ngesimanga sokuthi njengoba basibabili umhola uyakutholi kahle futhi akaholi kakhulu uyahola lo mholo ngokuthi akucazeke ukuthi akudliwe manje ujina ukudla ikona kube kuthathe kakhulu imali ungabisakwazi ukuthenga into ozoyisebenzisa ukwenza enye izinto. Sana ye yenzeka phela uma ngekho nje kompompi siyehliseke siwalandela lapha emfuleni izansi. Shintsha impilo ngoba ngisezokhathazeka ukuthi ngiyathwala ngiyathulula ngiyaphindela sengizokwazi ukudonsa noma amandla angenawo kahle ngizokwazi ukufaka kule sitsha ngiwadonse ngize ngifike la engadini ngisizakale.
Thank you, everyone, again, for giving the opportunity to speak to you on this. Thank you for your support over the years. And I think what says it all is in that video, it's not just a thank you for the Vihiparola, etc. It's that lady deems it a blessing to have one. And that's really high regarded, as you could hear. Thank you again.
Rob, we had one question from the chat, wondering how much one survival garden kit costs.
It's just on 250 Canadian dollars.
Great, thank you.
Are there any other questions from the floor? Well, Rob, thank you very much for that presentation. Oh, we do have a question from Erica Weeb. Just curious about how the hippo roller works. Where is the opening to get water in and out?
There's a larger opening. You may recall the one photo of the lady using the bucket to fill the hippo roller. The hippo roller's got the handles are almost like clamps. The clamps come undone. You turn the hippo roller on its side, and then it's got a biggish, shall I say, cap that you undo, so you can fill the water with either a hose or at a tap, or from a bucket, as you saw in that photo. And then you can close that, and then it's got a smaller cap, which for those of you maybe buy 2-liter Cokes, that fits on there, so you can pour smaller quantities of the water out at a slower rate to use in the garden.
Rob, there's a question there from our district governor, Gail Marie, asking how are the recipients of the hippo rollers chosen?
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, we can hear you.
What we've done is we partnered with NGOs, as I'll say on my side. We partnered, our own club side. We partnered with Hillcrest AIDS Center Trust. So they primarily screened and identified the people who needed They actually have a lady and a gentleman who go out weekly to these areas, and they go and follow up and see how they're doing, and giving them guidance with their gardens, what they need, etc. It's one of those, if I may, stories that one can really go on and on about. But they even do their own seedlings now, etc. So they identify the people that primarily that's needs this. But we put it out to a lot of Rotary clubs. We've had about 6 to 7 other Rotary clubs come on board. Also other NGOs, organizations active in the field with community gardens, who've established those needs and then give it to the recipients. We've given it to Caritas, the Catholic outreach organization. There's another organization we work with called 0 to 5. They do early childhood development creches throughout almost throughout the country, where they put these in creches to produce fruit and vegetables. As you saw in the one photo, it's the primary school. So there's various needs, but we just can't reach everybody. I think we had applications for about 675 almost immediately from varying areas. I hope that answers you to an extent.
All right, thank you for that. So that we can give enough time for the next presentation. Thank you very much for that, Rob. Excellent presentation. Wonderful to hear from you again. And we are going to transition over now to Kaya. And I'm going to be transitioning us over by taking us on a little bit of a road trip, a very brief road trip. And if you pay very close attention, you will notice that there is someone named Kaya in this video. So what you may have noticed in there was there's some overlapping with the Hippo Rollers as a project and the Rotary Club of Gibsons and the Roll a Hippo Foundation. That video is a couple of years old, just prior to the 1000 Survival Gardens project getting underway. But there's been lots of other things that have been going on in this community. And with that, I'll have Kaya take over. Kaya, if you will, please continue on with the story.
Good day, everyone. My name is Kaya. I'm out in South Africa in Taweni. Thank you very much, Gary. The slide we're seeing at the moment is just a typical scenario or landscape of the village. Everything is actually, the timing is perfect because this is the time that we're in now, which is winter. And this picture depicts exactly what it's like in winter. Very dry, and it's more of an area of those grasslands we have a lot of veld fires during this time. And as you can see, the water's basically down in the valley. It's little streams. We don't have any big rivers, and these streams actually run dry in winter. Thanks, Gary. Then what you would see, it's also good that Rob had a beautiful slide of South Africa. We are also on the east side of South Africa, very remote area. As you can see, the mountainous area. It's typically what is referred to as the outback, deep rural. Then you'd also see a bit of a monument on the on the top right, synonymous with where you'd see the ocean. We are on what is called the Wild Coast. A gentleman by the name, or his family, Warner Johnson, his family was shipwrecked on the Wild Coast. It's very well known for shipwrecks, especially in the 18th and 19th centuries. Warner Johnson's family was shipwrecked. They couldn't find their way back to Cape Town, and they ended up living in this village. They took on many of the struggles and the challenges of the Mbondo people, who are the indigenous people of the area, and to a point where they would have been involved in, I would say, political problems with the powers that be at the time. Thank you very much, Rob. Sorry, Gary. What we then did as the Warner Johnson Development Organization, we focused on climate change realities, because we could tell that over the years, families were struggling to grow their own food, mostly because of water challenges. So we love the idea that within organic farming, there's a lot of climate smart solutions. So if you look at the first picture, the top left, we were busy doing raised beds with mulching. We were planting in a companion planting method, which helps with pesticides, which helps that all the plants that go together would be planted in a raised bed, meaning that a gogo wouldn't have to struggle with growing one crop at a time. So she'd have a number of things growing all at the same time in a small patch. And in the center picture, we were lucky to be sponsored by friends of Luke and Linda, who sponsored us the irrigation system. So you can see that we had a water tank being put up, because at the project, we don't have electricity, we live off grid. So we needed something that would help us to with pressure, to bring the water down into the garden for us to irrigate. On the top right, we're looking at maize, which is corn. And this is the typical season that we are in now, which is just after the harvesting of corn. At the bottom, that was part of another Hiporola handover, which happened after what we picked up in the video. Also Hiporolas that are sponsored by the Rotary Club of Gibsons. Thanks, Gary. This project lies on a 4-hectare plot, and at the moment we've used up about 1.5 hectares. This is the first structure that was put on the plot, which is just a residential structure. We've tried as a family in the meantime to work around structuring it such that we have an office, because initially it was just a residential option. But finally, we are doing a few changes and few renovations to the structure. Thanks, Gary. The latest addition onto this 1.5 hectares that have been used, we've actually fenced it up. We've got a garden going, which would be a school garden that we're growing up to be a market garden. So the main picture is the picture of the preschool, which is it's a 10 by 5 structure. and will house about 20 little ones. Now with COVID, we probably end up with about 15 because we need to respect social distancing. And then the pictures below are pictures of the opening, the official opening of the preschool, which took place about a month ago. And you can see women in their traditional dress. The center picture is just some guests that were here with us enjoying the festivities. And the last picture on the right, at the bottom, is the cutting of the ribbon. Thanks, Gary. Also, these are pictures of the women that were participating, getting the food preparation. And I think you would notice that these are the rare occasions where we are happy and jolly, and we tend to go all out. Most of the vegetables that we used on the day were picked from our garden. And as you can see, we observed a lot of the COVID regulations, masks on, yeah, all throughout the day. Thank you very much, Gary. This is a picture of two little ones that we've enrolled into the preschool. We're running now onto our second month of the preschool, and we looking at the teacher there that was just sharing some of, they were actually going through their lessons for the day. And that is her in the classroom. This was just before we opened, when we were still cleaning up and getting our posters, getting the furniture into the classroom. Thanks, Gary. This is another addition to the project. We also work with the elderly. A lot of them have been busy with craft, doing beadwork, sewing. They have, they make candles, they bake. And on this particular program, we partnered with a company that is in Cape Town who sell a very high-end product of baby blankets and jerseys made out of merino wool. So we sent them some of our work, and they were excited to partner with us running a Mother's Day promotion. And we were able to knit hot water bottle covers, as you can see in the picture. And the three grannies that I'm with are the ones that run the sewing and knitting and craft shop that we're trying to put together. Thanks very much, Gary. Part of what we've been doing now in the harvest season, and you can see one of the grannies in the top left picture, we grew a crop of sorghum. Sorghum is an indigenous crop to South Africa, and we found that over the years it's been replaced by corn, and many people are growing more corn than they are growing indigenous crops. So for the second season running now, I've been growing sorghum and trying to reintroduce it into the diet. It's a very healthy and nutritious product. It is climate smart, drought resistant, and that is the beauty of growing indigenous crops, that they don't need all of the fertilizers and all of those inputs. And we tried to do a bit of companion. What our grandparents grew before was something they would companion maize, corn, with beans and with pumpkins, and that was known as the Three Sisters. And every time you talk about things like those, people suddenly remember, oh yes, that's what my grandmother used to do. So we're excited to bring back indigenous crops into our growing cycles. And those two pictures, you can see one of the grannies with our guests that were here. They drove in from Durban to spend the day with us, and they were just so excited to harvest with us. Thanks, Gary. The next slide is just a slide of the produce. We're currently growing winter crops, which is cabbage, spinach, cauliflower, beetroot, carrots. A lot of those crops are in the ground, and we're now looking at some of the produce that's almost ready to be harvested as winter crops, which is also good for us because we are now able to provide nutritious meals for the preschool. On the right-hand side, part of the harvest, corn, all that is indigenous corn, and it's not genetically modified. We've been keeping the seed for a number of years now, and we've been growing the corn from our own seed bank. In the last season, I was gifted a sweet potato slip, just one slip that was sent to me in the mail, and I planted it. And this is the beautiful sweet potato that we harvested a few days ago. We've now put more out into the garden, so we're hoping that we're going to have this beautiful purple sweet potato to try out, because it was the first time that we were growing it this season. Thanks, Gary. This is all part of the visits, the friends that were here. We prepared a typical Bondo meal in an open fire. We've got some of the corn that we harvested, and Granny was displaying and demonstrating how we would start the fire and place the pots on the fire. So it's just those things that we do seamlessly. But it's actually exciting when we've got visitors and they want to learn about the things or the culture or the history of the Mbondo people. So we're very excited to host visitors. Thanks, Gary. This is pictures of us making compost. We had a few visitors that we needed to demonstrate how we make compost. This method of making compost is actually part of recycling. For many years, people would cut their grass, but they would actually burn it because they don't see any other need for it. But now we've been able to show them that you can actually recycle cardboard. You can recycle your grass clippings with a little bit of crawl manure, and watering that and turning it over a few days, you could actually have compost in a month. And this is just a beautiful demonstration of how to make the compost. You can see a little one in the picture. That is one of the little ones that are attending our preschool, which we've made it part of the curriculum or part of the daily activities or in a week, that they actually do get to go into the garden at least once or twice in the week. Parents are very, very excited about that addition into the activities. Thanks, Gary. And now we have just outside the gate, because we are actually a prime location. We're right at the corner of the main road. We have a sign that says Dolopini. Dolopini is about 5 kilometers from me on a dirt road. And that is where we are starting to assist this community, which is made up of about 500 households, which each household could easily, when I did the research, I had put it at about 6 or 8 people in a household, but I came up with numbers like 11 and 13 people in one household. And for people, for a community that doesn't have good access to water, we're so grateful that through Rotary, the Rotary Club of Winnipeg, we are able to start a program with them to actually give them water that they could use. It's just, at this point, it's actually exciting just to give them water to cook their meals, water for drinking. And we're hoping that in future we'll be able to encourage them to grow their own food gardens. It's been that section is just one of the sections where you can actually see and understand how the struggle that people have with water. So we're very, very excited and very grateful to find partners that are willing to understand and do something about people that are so far away that you've never met, who are down in the outback with no access, and you're able to actually listen to our story and participate. Thank you very much. Thanks, Gary.
All right, thank you, Kaya. It's absolutely wonderful to hear from you and to get a true sense of the the type of lifestyle and the taste of the lifestyle of what's going on in the remote community in South Africa. We have a few minutes left. If anyone has any questions, I don't know if anything's come up on the chat box, Blair.
No questions from the chat. I was preparing one for a question about sorghum, but Kaya beat me to it.
Okay. All right. If there's does anyone wish to ask any questions at this time? Mahendra.
Just to learn, just like to know how far is Taveuni from the nearest city? You know, I would imagine it would be Durban.
Yes, we are 300 kilometers from Durban. If you know where the Wild Coast Casino is, at just after Port Edward, on the border of Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal.
Okay, so
There's
you're
a
just inside
Sun International Wild Coast facility or hotel. We are from that point, we're about 140 kilometers out.
Okay, yeah. So you are at the further end of the Eastern Cape province in South Africa.
Yes, yes, we are.
Closer to KwaZulu-Natal border.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mahendra. Are there any other questions at this point?
Gary,
Eva. Go ahead, Eva.
Just wondering what the long range plan is. What is the goal? How far, unless I missed it, what are we planning to do sort of in the short term, long term in terms of the number of hippo rollers and that, if you could give us an update on that.
Sure. Does that sound like something I should pass to you, Rob, or?
You're welcome. Hi, Eva. Good to see you again. Eva, the objective, when we started the project, we said 1,000 survival garden kits, but I imagine it'll go past beyond that because more and more, just in Kaya's area alone, she's asked for another 75 down her way. So, we are receiving more and more requests for the kits.
Eva, I should mention that when we started the project, we said, well, let's see how far we can go to get to 1,000. And I must tell you that I've been just absolutely thrilled with the response, because we're pushing right at this moment about 400. And I think within a month or two, we should reach half the mark. And within the next year, I don't doubt that we will reach the 1,000 mark. And of course, we will be planning for the future. I also want to thank our district governor, Gail Marie, for her leadership, because our district has stepped up big time here and has contributed very, very substantially. And we're looking forward to a continuation of that into the future. And so you know what, with the pace we're setting right now, I think we'll be doing I'm very optimistic about our progress. And while I'm talking, I noticed that Ellie, our Rotarian Ellie from our club, joined us as well. So welcome to Ellie. And our grandson Kieran has joined us. So thank you for joining us today.
All right, and let me echo that. It's wonderful to see all of you. And I'll add to that by saying that the only reason why we're keeping this pace with the Survival Gardens project and with helping Kaya in Dolopini and other projects that we do is because of you. And this is why we wanted to do this and connect you with these people in South Africa so that you could actually see them, hear from them, listen to their stories, and have them express their gratitude, because we express our gratitude to you as fundraisers here, but no more so is that gratitude more felt than by those doing the work in South Africa. So thank you to all of you. We're just coming up to the end of our meeting, and I just want to, of course, thank our presenters, Kaya and Rob, for doing their wonderful presentations for us, to Blair and Rayanne and Strini, our committee, for pulling this together and making it happen. But again, most of all, to all of you, for our donors, we're only able to do this because of you. And we look for your continued support. We look for you to help us find new supporters And we look forward to doing continued projects successfully throughout the future. I'll pass it over to you, Srini, if you have any final words. Otherwise, if there's any last minute questions, thank you for all your great comments, by the way, the positive comments on the chat box that are coming through as well. Thank you again. So if you want to have any final words, Srini, over to you, please.
Yeah, thanks very much, Gary. I just have to echo your thanks. Daryl, thank you very much for your excellent comment. We're looking forward to inviting you to be part of the team. You're a guy with a lot of fundraising experience, so we're going to be utilizing your talents as well. But if anybody, I noticed a very nice comment from Sandra Carter, and this was a pleasant surprise to me, Rotarian from Port Elgin, Ontario, who had to drop off the call, she said, but she was going to use the recording with her own family, and her daughter is the incoming president of the Port Elgin Club. So Mahendra, we should be talking about this, and Gary, we should be talking about making a presentation to Sandra Carter's club.
Yes, no question about it. I think we have discussed about it, about doing a mob presentation. That's our cluster here in the Oakville, Burlington, Milton area. And unfortunately, I don't think it has happened so far, but I think we will push from our end to have you guys, give a presentation in the near future.
Thank you, Mahendra.
Yeah, personally, we are already on board, as a club, and we'll continue to do in the coming year. But I like to, see more clubs involved. I think we want to make it truly a pan-Canadian project, from coast to coast,
Yeah, thank you very much for your wonderful help and for getting all that money for us. It's already just past 2, so we don't want to delay proceedings. So again, I want to personally thank you all, and on behalf of our Rotary Club of Winnipeg and the Rotary Club of Hillcrest, and Kaya and Taweni and Gary and our team here, thank you so much for joining us. This has been such a wonderful opportunity to share, and thanks for your generous comments. But to our long-term supporters, you are really what makes this happen. So thank you very much, and keep on expanding the family, and we'll keep on expanding the work.